So a lot of recent reports have highlighted that there has been a decline in number of placement offers as well as placement packages across India and across various colleges. Now the situation is quite alarming, and it has less to do with student potential and it has more to do with the industry scenario right now and the economic downturn. So now at this stage, more than ever, it is important that whatever placement opportunities, whatever interview opportunities you get, you should be able to crack those, because the competition right now is fierce, globally. So that's why cracking the right opportunities, cracking whatever opportunities you are getting inside your interest area, now that's very important. Now recently I got a chance to interact with a lot of students from IIM Bangalore, IIM Udaipur, IIM Indore, XLRI, XIBM, Goa Institute of Management, etc. Now these were students who were from 1 year full-time MBA program, 2 year full-time MBA programs. There were students from year 1, year 2, and there were students who were preparing for summer internships, as well as students who were uh, preparing for final placements. Now I was connecting with them for their resume reviews as well as conducting their mock interviews. Now while interacting with these students, I identified common pitfalls or common errors which roughly 90% of the students were making, and it hampers the placement preparation, or whether it is for summer internship or final placements. So in this video we are going to talk about how you can structure your tell me about yourself answer, how you can showcase your goals in a very effective way, how you can highlight your strengths and weaknesses and relate them to the job role that you are applying for, how you can be thorough with the numbers, what kind of structure you need to adopt to make your answers concise and crisp. And all of this will be done by using an approach called STAR approach. Now let's start with tell me about yourself question. Now before I get to the answer of this question, I want to explain you the interviewer's psyche, how an interviewer thinks and goes through your resume. Now the first thing is that the interviewer, for especially for campus placement, generally gets 5 to 7 minutes to go through your resume, because they have tons of interviews to conduct, tons of resumes to go through. So when a candidate leaves and before the next candidate comes, generally that is the time in which they go through the resume. In most cases, some of the interviewers would actually go through the resume in a very detailed way prior to coming to the campus, but that is roughly around 5 to 7% of the interviewers. So now in that 5 to 7 minutes of going through your resume, the interviewer is generally able to go through only the top one third or top 33% of your resume. So it's very important that you have key details highlighted, key pointers highlighted in top one third of your resume. But right now I'm not going to get into much details of resume. We will talk more about the interviews right now. Now coming to the answer of tell me about yourself question. Now this question, while it's an icebreaker, it is generally asked to understand what kind of a person you are, what are your achievements, etc. But you can use this question very wisely, and through this one question you can actually drive your interview. Now the some of the key things that you can include in the answer for this question is you can start with covering your work experience or your educational experience or your background in a very concise and crisp way, and then you can move on to what kind of achievements, skill sets you have developed over the years, now whether it was through education or through work experience. Now in this question you should also include what is your post MBA or whatever degree that you are pursuing. After that, what do you want to do? So what's your goal like? And then you should also include how your past experiences, past education, the current education that you are pursuing, now whether it is MBA or any other course, how are those going to help you in achieving your long term goals, short term goals, basically the post MBA goals or post whatever degree you are pursuing, whatever goals you want to have achieved immediately after completing the degree. So you have to very strategically include these pointers, and remember the answer to tell me about yourself question should not be less than 2 minutes and should not be more than 3 minutes. Now let's move to the second part, which is goals. Now, whatever your goals are, both long term and short term, you should be very thorough with them. Now, by being thorough, what I mean is that, let's say you want to get into product management or you want to get into marketing after completing the program. Now, you should be thorough with what is product management, at least the basics of product management. What are the different stages of product management? There are basically 9 different stages of product management, and I have already created a video for product management. I have included the link in description. You can go through it in detail, because once the interviewer feels that, while you are interested in getting into product management and you know the basics, you know the process in detail, it leaves a very good impression on the interviewer that yes, this guy or this girl basically walks the talk. So they, while they want to get into product management, it's not that they don't know what exactly they are getting into, or they are just like, trying. So once you are very thorough with the, whether it is product management, whether it is marketing. Now, for example, for marketing, you can highlight, like, you should be thorough with what are the 4 P's of marketing, what are the basics of marketing, what is digital marketing, what are the different metrics used in digital marketing. Now, all of this information is very basic, and all of this information is available on the internet. So that's why the interviewer expects that you should be knowing the basics of whatever field, whatever domain you are planning to get into. Now, in most cases, roughly 90% of the cases, I have seen that, like, students are not very thorough with the basics of product management or basics of marketing. A lot of students don't even, like, they are not even aware about the 4 P's. What are the different metrics used in digital marketing? What are the different pricing mechanisms? Now, these are very basics, and they are taught, like, right in the beginning of the program. Plus, they are very, like, widely available on the internet. So that's why an interviewer expects you to research, to read about whatever domain you are planning to get into. Now, another thing that I have seen is that students mention numbers in their resume, and they give a lot of importance to those numbers. So, by numbers, what I mean is that, let's say some student has worked on an initiative where they worked on reducing the cost of a project or a product or a process by 40%. Now, a very basic question from the interviewer will be, what was the cost before you implemented the process, and what was the cost after completing the process? And this is where a lot of students fumble. They are not very thorough with the numbers they have mentioned on their resume. Now, whatever you have mentioned on your resume, you should be extremely thorough with it. You should go through each pointer and think, like, how am I going to explain this pointer? How am I going to explain this number that I have mentioned on my resume? Just saying that, like, my manager gave that number, or I don't recollect it, it leaves a very bad impression on the interviewer. Now, the next thing is strengths and weaknesses. Now, this is a very important thing, and a lot of interviewers ask about the strengths or weaknesses of a candidate. Now, more often than not, they will ask weaknesses, because they want to understand whether you acknowledge what your weak areas are. Because if you're not acknowledging, you will not be able to improve on them. So you have to be very cautious what weaknesses you want to highlight, and they should be relatable. Avoid generic weaknesses like, I am not able to say no, or I look for perfection, because in some of the cases it can, like, it can really backfire. Like, for example, if you are getting into a product management role, or you are aspiring for a product management role, now this is where things like, saying no, prioritization, all of these things are very important. So if you say that, like, you struggle with prioritizing things, now this is a key thing that is required in product management, so it leaves a very bad impression. Now, while you can say that you struggle with prioritization, but you should highlight what initiatives you are taking to overcome that weakness, or how you have planned, like, to overcome that weakness. So that becomes very important, because that gives an idea to the interviewer that yes, this person acknowledges his or her weakness and is willing to work on improving the weak areas. Now, similarly for strengths, strengths should be very unique to you, and they should again be related to the skill set that is required for a domain, because that would make the interviewer feel that you have that skill set, naturally, and will in a way strengthen your candidature. Now, these days, a lot of students take online courses, and the online courses, certifications are generally mentioned at the bottom of your resume. Now, that is one area which, in most cases, the interviewers are not able to go through because they, as I said earlier in the video, that they get 5 to 7 minutes to go through your resume. So they focus more on the top one third of the resume. Now, that's why it is very important that you highlight whatever online courses you have taken. If they are very important for you, if they're related to the domain that you are applying to, you can include those in your tell me about yourself in a very crisp way, just highlighting that because I have interest in this domain, I took this course and my learnings were this, or I developed this skill set from that course. Now, this can be one effective way. Now, the second thing, and the most or the more dangerous thing, is that in a lot of cases when interviewers ask, okay, what were your three learnings from a particular course? Now, this is where a lot of students again fumble. They are not able to explain what they learned. They are not able, in a lot of cases, they are not able to explain what the course was all about. Now, these are red flags, because everything that you have mentioned in your resume, you should be thorough with. There cannot be a thing it happened long back, so I don't remember it, because you are expected to go through each pointer in your resume. You are expected to add pointers in your resume in a very diligent way. Now, all of these things have to be explained in a very concise and a crisp way, which means all of this has to be very structured. Now, for structuring your answers both in your resume as well as interviews, you can use STAR approach, which is basically situation, task, action, result. Now, how you can use this approach is that, let's say, I I was working on a project in which I was supposed to reduce the cost by 30%. Now, the situation is that you were working on a project. The task is that you were supposed to reduce the cost by 30%. Now, in the action part, you should explain how you did it. What were those initiatives, or whether you engage different stakeholders, whatever you did, the how part, that has to be included in actions, and then you talk about the results, or basically the impact that you have made for the organization. Now, in certain cases, you may not have numbers, but you may have metrics, if you were a product developer, you worked on a product wherein you wanted to increase the user engagement. So, 1 2 3 actions you took, and because of that, the user experience or user engagement improved. So all of these metrics can also play an important role when you are describing the results. Now, all of these pointers you can include in your preparation for summer internship or your final placements, and these pointers and these insights will certainly help you in performing better in interviews. Now, I hope you liked the video, you got good insights from the video, but still, if you have any questions, you can write them in the comment section and we will reply to them. Also, do share this video with your friends who are also preparing for the placement season, or who are otherwise working on to improve their interview performance. And do subscribe to our channel to get regular updates around career transitions, different programs that you can take, different courses that you can take.